Hi everyone, it's Marie Antoinette here, and I have Geeia Ariati here with us today. And I decided to do this special interview to have a chat with. Can we call you G, or what would you prefer?
You can call me G, Marie. I don't mind being called G, and anyone who feels resonance to get close to me in heart connection, because that's what my friends call me.
Excellent. I'm only asking because whenever I say your name, I just want to sing it like Geeia, Geeia. So I'm just going to call you G. And so I'm talking with G today in relation to her event that's coming up, which is called Return to Source, the Shambhala Experience. So I wanted to give people a little bit of a taste of what Geeia is really about, and allow them to have a look inside of the creation of this event. This event has been circulating for a little bit now. It's not until July, but we'll get the details, the specific details at the end. But I wanted people to have a bit of an insight into how this event has been formed. So my first question for you, G, is you call yourself a conduit for the Elohim. And so I wanted to ask how that came about, and who, I mean, I know what the Elohim are, but for people who don't, could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for creating the space to have this conversation. I'm often the person that's interviewing, so it can be quite nice to be asked questions, as I feel spirit really speaks through me at different times, and a lot of magic keys and gold nuggets pop in, and ways that I don't get to naturally express on my social media. So it's nice to be in this position to have this conversation with you, and I just want to honor you and say thank you for your time and the contribution that you're creating to this co-creation. So it's not my event. And I will talk a little bit about what that means. It is an event that is being birthed through me, but is definitely a co-creation of spirit. In relation to the Elohim, so this is an interesting piece, and I have quite a few different individuals ask me what is the Elohim, and through texts and Bible and philosophy, a lot of people feel that Elohim is another word for God. Now, the Elohim is a race of God and goddess energy from the unity consciousness field. So they're celestial high vibrational frequencies, and they would describe themselves as not beings specifically. So how they first described themselves to me was that they are frequency and vibration that we would sometimes, from our human perspective, see it as angels, galactic beings, or archangels, or different races that are not celestial races. But from what I've come to understand, they're a very high frequency vibration of infinite oneness consciousness, and they work directly with God consciousness. It's like the level of frequency and vibration that sits right under oneness.
Beautiful. I like that explanation. And
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people don't realize that there are many different consciousness not embodied. So they are pure energy fields that operate, that hold a great deal of wisdom. So I just wanted to say that I'm usually the one being interviewed rather than the interviewer. And I did forget to mention that this, yes, that's true. It's not Giaia's event in a sense. It is definitely a co-creation in which I am part of. And I will be presenting at this event as well. But I really did get into that mode of professional interviewer there. So I guess I wanted people to see the 3D sense of you, because I guess on social media there is a lot of your activation stuff, your light language, which you demonstrate beautifully. And the story behind that I feel is very important. And the reason I mention this is because I know in my own work, when people know my history, they're quite amazed. They're amazed at what I've been through, they're amazed at what I've overcome, and the state in which I then operate from. So I guess the question is, could you tell us about your 3D self?
Yeah, I do feel it's a really important piece to share and something that has come into my awareness to speak a little bit more about from the human lens. And so some of the messages that I've been getting myself around this is speaking from the conduit self, but then also the human self, and giving those different perspectives of understanding. So the human lens can start to understand the more unified consciousness and work within the two for people to resonate at a level that when I first awakened, I didn't, I felt things, but my mind was going, what are they saying? I don't quite understand. And it's like, I can feel there's truth here, but I couldn't cognitively even grasp at it. And so when I first started channeling from the Elohim, which has been the directive of birthing through this event, I would channel a message and I would have to read it to myself like several times to even make sense of what it was, because it was quite expanded out from where I was sitting at that point in my evolution. But yeah, the human journey, the identities journey, or the part of me that it doesn't show up very much in social media anymore, and that has been guided to me specifically from spirit for a period of time, is because of the way the human mind works. And I can see it with myself is um, from the human lens, we tend to resonate so deeply with somebody's pain story that we stop listening to their wisdom. And so the wisdom piece is what I'm here to speak, is to speak truth. But if I was sharing too much about my personal journey, what would happen is people would resonate so much to my human that they would start to forget or not witness or not receive the level of information that I did have to gift as a guide and a way shower. Um, what has got me to this point of remembrance has been quite a lot of contrast, and I've had quite an adverse bringing up. I was brought up very spiritually, and I very much repelled against all of that and didn't want to be spiritual in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want to be at all like my mother. And that was based on a lot of judgment. I watched my mother. The one thing that was really important for me was to find love and to be in like a happy, loving relationship and do the white picket fence kind of story, which was created from a lot of lack of self-love and through a lot of trauma. So there was sexual abuse that started quite early. The earliest memory I have is 2 years old, and then grew up in a relationship dynamic at home where it was, I would say, more than narcissistic empathic relationship. So there was a lot of emotional abuse, walking on eggshells. I, as a young child, was very sensory. So navigating and trying to find safety meant that I went into a lot of disassociation, along with the different traumas that took place throughout my human experience. My father left when I was very young, so I looked for love in men, and that created some pretty toxic cycles throughout my life experience, along with the lack of self-love and the distortions of sexuality and confusions between sex and love, and which led me to actually repeat exactly what my mother had lived, which is the very interesting piece around ancestral and healing the lines of our family that I have found to be very fascinating. Is I hit 28 and I had a realization that I was a lot more like my mum and like my upbringing than I was willing to admit, only because of the amount of isolation that had taken place through a abusive relationship, and being in a control dynamic where I was taken away from friends, family, had a new baby, and I had got to a point of numbness in my life where I was so depressed that I didn't feel. There was no feeling. There was no joy. There was no happiness. There was no sadness. It was just, I, yeah, I was numb, completely numb. And it was through a different turn of events and that relationship breaking down that something within my inner being shattered, I would say. And I started to activate my solar plexus. My solar plexus just turned on. I felt anxiety for the first time. I couldn't eat for like 2 weeks, and I was an emotional eater. And so there was all these different things that started to show up as my energy systems turned on. But yeah, through, I guess, having 4 children and going through quite a different experience of motherhood as well, I feel as though I feel as though my human experience has been to travel all lenses of trauma so that I can move through them and have compassion and love for both beings of involved, or all beings involved in these situations. And I can truly come from a lens of love, which has helped me to heal myself and to hold space for others, because we truly are doing the best that we can with the information that we have.
Beautiful. I really loved that answer. That was so well put. It gave me food for thought too. And I like what you said about not sharing too much of the pain story, because people don't see that wisdom story. Because I guess there's that balance between looking at the problem and not the solution. But I find this fascinating as well. And it reminds me of a remembrance that I had, where I had a pre-birth memory of what my life would be like before I got here. And remembering that I was choosing my pain because the words were very, very distinct. They were, I had to walk in the shoes of those I was going to help. And so I thought I'd mention that, because a lot of us who are activating others and helping them come into their remembrance have come from places of darkness. I believe it's the only place we need to come from, because the contrast, and I like the words that you used of contrast, because we live in a duality consciousness planet, and there's light and dark, positive and negative. So I guess that's important. So thank you for answering that so well. So can you now tell us about the Return to Source event, and in particular how that came to be, like where your inspiration came from? Was it divinely given to you, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I feel the very initial activation and remembrance for that was about 7 years ago. And I had newly born twins, and I was very early in my journey. And I listened to one of the first TED Talks I'd ever listened to. And I remember watching this keynote speaker up on stage talking, and I got full body goosebumps and like a very clear message: you'll be doing that one day. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. I was at the time doing social media marketing, and I was showing up online to be an empowering mother, business boss babe kind of energy. And so I could feel the resonance. I didn't even know what resonance was, but at that time I knew it in my body that there was some truth in this. As I evolved through my journey and began to open that channel to receive spirit's message consistently, and now spirit's the leader of my life. I no longer choose to let my mind control my life. That information has become clearer and clearer and clearer. And at the time that was there, I knew it was profound and big and transformative. Even then, I knew it was going to change a lot of people's lives, but I didn't have the understanding of what this stepping stone is for the birthing of this creation, which is a birthing of so much more. The vision has come through each, I would say, shedding of the false self within myself. So every time I see a limiting belief or a trauma story or a distortion within my masculine and feminine, and I work on that, it's like I receive the knowledge from spirit at the same time. So it dropped in very strongly last year when I started to activate and remember that I'm have the Egyptian lineage, and that I was a high priestess in the temples in ancient Egypt, and also held a lot of information in Lemuria. And during this activation of remembering, for me, past lives, and I feel this is very important to share, is for me, past lives were always a story of the mind. So I've been someone who's probably been quite masculine and logical. And so the idea of a past life was, sure, if someone needs to justify their experience in a past life story, then if it's upsetting them now, that's fine. But it's just whatever story they've created so that they can make sense of what they're feeling in their body. Because we as humans love stories, right? And we're attached to them. It's why we have challenges to evolving. It's why we hold these limiting beliefs. And so I have really not done any past life work, and I had zero desire to. And what had happened was this relationship dynamic had popped up into my life, and I went into a deep trigger that I'd surfaced and circled and looped around so many times. And I couldn't understand something that I had dissected mentally so many times, in and out, and knew myself so well. How could this possibly be in my experience? And I was so angry, and I just lied down on the floor in that place of complete like declaration. And I was like, show me what it is that's creating this in my life, because I don't want to choose it anymore. And I just like lied down and like waited. I didn't know what I was going to see. And it was very profound. It like sucked me back straight into ancient Egypt and the beginning of my remembrance of the Egyptian codes, kundalini energy, body work, and understanding the quantum field, and how we really do have to remember our past, present, and future selves to come into a place of connection with our present moment, and to live from a place of peace, a place from connection and not from separation. So it was quite an interesting birthing, but through this remembering of my priestess, I connected with so many beautiful people. Everywhere in my life, I was connecting with priestesses. And I was like, oh, okay, and I could see priestess energy. Oh, that person's from Egypt. And it was this gathering of tribe, this gathering of mirrors in my experience that I have now come to understand as soul group and sister or cousin soul groups that hold agreements, contracts, and missions and purposes together. And return to source is the birthing of a part of my purpose, what I feel is my life's mission. It feels like the initial steps to that true embodiment of what that is, and an initiation and an activation for the facilitators that are also creating this quantum rebirth. And then the beautiful individuals that get to receive this. And it is a experience that I don't believe has been created on earth before. Not from what I've received. It's something that is new with its information, its codes, its frequency, the way that everything is brought together in the processes. It's bringing, I guess, the 5D experience into the 3D reality. And it's coming from a much higher dimension in that way of being facilitated. And the individuals that feel the resonance and the call to this are going to come because there's a part of them that knows that their human is creating too much suffering, conflict, contrast, and disconnect. And they know that they're here for a reason. They know they're here to bridge that gap between spirit and matter. There's a part of them that remembers, I'm here for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, maybe, or maybe they're well embodied in starting to learn that. But this is a complete transformation into activating that part within each and every one of them, so that we, as facilitators and as a collective, can start to walk in sovereignty and truth.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, G, because as you were talking, I was thinking about, well, actually, I wanted to mention that I was getting, goosebumps, and I could feel my kundalini starting to activate and sort of move around as you were talking. And it's difficult to describe to people if they haven't had something like this. And I know some of the newbies that have worked with me in my channeling and activations they've just said, I'd like to write your review, but I don't know how to put it into words. So it is a little bit hard to describe, but you did that well, I think. So I feel good about the way that you have given people a picture there, because I was sitting listening and pretending that I didn't know you and how other people may receive this. So well done on that. And let's talk, you mentioned the sisters and the other facilitators. Can you talk to us about how that came to be? This is a big vision. This is a big thing. And talk to us about how that came about too, and how you saw that come.
Yeah, so it's quite beautiful. A part of my purpose. So my purpose is a sentence, and when you get your purpose, it's like the most exciting thing ever, because you're like, oh, I know that, and you never have to ask the question ever again. And there's a solid anchoring in why you came and why you're here and what you're to do, and it's kind of like finding the key to the whole puzzle piece that was missing. But my purpose is to activate the remembrance of who you truly are. So if we break that down, all of these amazing individuals, I have the capacity through my abilities and my innate gifts to see into someone's energy blueprint, or their aura, or their energy field, or their mind, consciousness, body. And I am able to be gifted the information of what this person's here to do, why they're here, and to help activate and remind them of these different pieces within themselves. Because our human is so strong, sometimes we get let off path and we end up in trauma stories. And it's just, I get to be this loving guidance to help burst through what, by just holding a space of remembrance, really, for people to stand into their true power. And the way that the facilitators came through was really through me standing in who I am in authenticity, and these connections of friendships. So the friendship at a soul level, there was a remembrance in the heart, in the body, and some of those were seen with a little bit more resistance than others, and some were very much like, as soon as there was that connection, there was this feeling of home. And it was just gifted to me in a place of meditation. And in the meditation, I was given the vision of and life was speaking before that. So life was giving me all the messages. I wasn't clearly remembering, but life was sharing them. These people, these beautiful women were coming into my life, and they were wanting to see what was there to be created through this connecting piece. So there is 7, including me, so the 7 sisters. And the magic about remembrance is that people will come into your life, and you can feel when they're here to help you or to heal or to create more. And these beautiful women were coming into my life, and I was able to see and receive the message from spirit in relation to what did that look like and how was that. And that evolved very quickly and very fast, and I started to get very strong messages for the future, which can be very challenging when you're living in the now moment. And also when you have one of the facilitators, she has not done any facilitation before. And at the time that I received the message that she was to run a whole 2-hour segment on connecting to the divine child, which is our original essence of separation from God. So our complete pure energy essence of our truth. That was a little bit overwhelming for my human if I had thought about it, and definitely overwhelming for her. But the remembrance was a full body yes. And it's, how do I line myself up to share whatever this is and get out of my own way? And so that's really how connecting with all of these amazing women has been. And I feel it's the same for them receiving me. It's been, that feels true. Oh, and this is giving me an idea or inspiration, or this fits in with other information I've received. But internally, there may be all of the stories, all of the resistance, all of the I can't do this, I'm unworthy, and different. One of them's terrified of public speaking. So there's all of these different components that come up. But when we're in alignment with our heart and our true soul mission, it's just amazing what's created, because the energy is so synergistic and expansive that it completely transforms the mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So these women, and I already know the answer to this question, but for the listeners and watchers, are people that you were guided to ask to be part of this experience. I know when you asked me, for example, there was no hesitation whatsoever. In fact, my mission is your mission, which is the same, which is bringing people into their remembrance of who they really are, and bypassing all that conditioning and the monkey mind and our humanness to get us to that place of divine inheritance of personal power. So I guess what can people expect to walk away with after? It's a 2-day event, yeah?
Yes, so it's a 2-day immersion, and it's going to be extremely quantum and multidimensional. So each woman is a priestess or a conduit. So to give some understanding of that, because that does give an understanding to what someone would be walking into. A conduit is a divine channel, someone who can communicate directly with source energy and bring that through word, song, touch, light codes, telepathy, and we won't go into the super multidimensional, but mediumship. There's an ability to receive high level source energy through the body. So it's their vessels are channels, and that's right through the center of their body. Now, not every human is this specifically with their archetype, but we all have the capacity to get to this point. And someone who is a conduit or a channel, being just in the direct vicinity of someone who's holding source frequency can transform and awaken someone. So their kundalini could activate just by, say, if I went to a meditation, if I was just sitting in meditation, I could activate someone's kundalini who was sitting next to me just by the energetic frequency. So when you have 7 women that have divine devotion to this level of frequency, to hold it, anchor it, and be it in their body, in their vessel, in their human experience in a room, that's going to create basically a portal and a vortex of going into the void and clearing away the stories of the mind, any of the traumas, any of the distortions that sit in our lower parts of our chakras, just by being in the frequency. And the beautiful thing is it doesn't have to be done in a hard way. And that's why the quantum and the multidimensional work is so powerful, is that we have this idea as humans that we have to go through pain to heal. And it's a distortion of our human mind. There only has to be a witness. So nothing exists if it doesn't witness. So it wouldn't even be there if it hadn't have been witnessed at some time, space, or dimension. So the witness means that you can experience something that's traumatized you and kept you in some level of depression or suicidal thoughts your entire life, and you see one thing and you witness it and it dissolves like magic. And it's absolutely beautiful, because you can clear lifetimes of your own trauma, your ancestral trauma, and you can sit in a place of love in a room to help transmute other people's trauma, as if you were just connecting with love. And so the different women, these priestess conduits, are all bringing different beautiful skills. So I'm sure that most people would know that you're an amazing channel, and that you have an ability to read energy and to bring through information from high levels of consciousness that a lot of people can be activated into inner truth from receiving. So there's a question and answer sort of experience of talking to, it's like imagining if you could go to a room and you had someone who knew the answers to life. And you get to go and sit in a room where you have infinite intelligence and all-knowing intelligence, and you get to ask any questions and be in the witness of people asking questions and receiving answers. And it actually is that expansive. It's like being in a space of this ineffable intelligence. And even if you don't know what to ask, it's just witnessing people in that frequency, being in that yourself, can bring through past life memory. It can clear away densities in the field, belief systems that you didn't even know you had can just dissolve away. So your whole neural pathways and your brain functions in a different way, and you can have more clarity, less disassociation, more understanding of what it is that you deeply desire. There is different healing components. So we've got a songstress, and she's amazing. She brings light codes, channeled songs through that just touches you to your soul. And the entire experience is about getting in touch with your heart, your mind-heart coherence, your inner being, your spirit essence, your Holy Spirit, your original authentic expression. And there's different ways of doing that by expressing creator or God energy in different ways. And so there is a kundalini practice, which is extremely powerful way to remember your own God connection. As you were sharing before, just having this conversation, it's like you know, that activates, and being in your kundalini allows you to have more creativity, more sensuality, more embodiment, more play in life, more connection to your partners, more desire, and orgasmic juiciness. And that, and when I say that, it's like connecting with kundalini is the ability to connect with life in all forms. So you can be out in nature and you can be turned on by nature. And I know how challenging that can be, for the for the human mind to be like, huh? Like, how do you be turned on by nature? But when we remove the distortions of our sexuality programming and what it is to be turned on, is just a current of energy, really. Then we are able to feel all of our life and to move through life guided by that energy, because really we don't really want to be turning off. The idea is that we stay turned on, in whatever expression. So there's the kundalini component, and there is some deep rebirthing and activating of your authentic expression, which could mean allowing your light language to come through. It could mean embodying your primal warrior. It may be moving for the first time and allowing that energy to move through. It's the full self-expression piece. And allowing yourself to be witness without judgment, without shame, without guilt, but in a place and a container that's fully held in love, so you can meet your true authentic self and also be seen in it, because that's where a lot of healing takes place, is being seen in the story, or being seen in the emotional response, and just being witnessed so that it can be removed from inside here so that it's outside of the body. I'm like, it's almost impossible for me to put words to what people will experience.
I know it's difficult. I was just thinking, like, all I know is that when I tune into this, and I'm very excited to be a part of it, because I've experienced people holding space who have very high frequency and vibration, and it makes a huge difference, because there's a sense of safety, recognition, and almost a remembrance of family and being supported. And then it has allowed me to fully drop into my own heart and my own body and my own connection. But I guess all I could say is that I envisage that every single being that attends this, including us, are going to be walking out differently. And what I love about frequency and vibration work, and all of this advanced, I guess, knowledge for our earth and our human, that we don't need to try and process it through here. And as you said, it's more of a connection with ourselves and being alive and turned on to life, and turned on to our experience, and turned on to the synchronicities and signs that we see, because when we're switched off, we don't see that flow. So I'm hugely excited. What was my other question? Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Well, I guess I would love to address, for anyone that maybe is a little triggered by the turned on by life, and maybe any stories that they've heard about Kundalini, or even self expression and that primal energy. Although those are components, this is going to be a safe space with so much love and so much connection, that if you're at a part in your journey where your self-expression is sitting there holding your sacral chakra, your tummy and your heart, and you're just sitting in witness, because that's all that you're able to be in and receive, or that's your truth, then that's what it's about. It's about receiving the frequencies, the channeled messages, the songs, the light language, the code, the physical touch, healing, whether or not we want to call it Reiki or intuitive healing. There are different postural pieces like quantum yoga, we'll call it, experiences. So it is going to cover a lot of different practices that are here with a slightly evolved, more multidimensional, celestial, galactic spin to it. And it doesn't mean that you have to know any of those things or you have done any of those things, because by just being in that frequency and just allowing your heart to guide you and not let fear stories come up of, oh, I can't actually dance in front of people, oh, I couldn't sing, or oh, I don't want to move my body, be the reason. Or if you've got, sexual shame, or if you've suppressed that energy, you may find, that word around intimacy can be quite triggering. It's got a lot of different stories to it, that the word intimacy may be like, oh, I'm not going to that. I don't know, what could that be? But the rest of your body is like, yes, but your brain wants to attach to this distortion. And it's allowing yourself to see the fear, and then also know that this is the most cleanest, non-leaky and pure, innocent expression of divine truth. And sovereign beings are expressing their energy from a place of their heart and from love. And although some of these words have distortions from our collective conditioning, and they have made us fearful and have created shame, the experience itself will transform your thought forms of what all of those things were. Where you may come in with the idea of this is what this is, and then you leave and you're like, wow, I see life in a completely different way. And that's why it's challenging to put it into words, because until you've experienced something like this, it's that's how we remember, is through the experience and being in the witness, and being guided to go, oh, I always knew that this is actually what it was. I just didn't know how to get there.
Yeah. So beautifully put. I was just when you were talking, I was chuckling to myself, because when I think of turned on, I actually think of a light turning on, whether it's in my body or not. But it's like that saying, the lights are on, but no one's home. Because I feel like, in the second part of my life, it's like I'm actually on now. It was before I was walking through the world with the lights switched off and I didn't know. So that's, I guess, everybody's viewpoint is different. And what I love about this particular work is that I don't even like calling it work. Let's call it play. What I love about this particular play is that it meets everybody where they're at. It doesn't matter where they're, over here, over there. And this is why I said that all of us are going to be transformed, including us, including the sisters who are facilitating and holding space, because it's such a beautiful co-creation of expansion. And it's there for all of us. So my last question to you is a little bit tricky. I'm not sure how you're going to answer it, but I'm going to ask you a question in light language and see if you can translate your answer. I won't say what the question is in English, but I'm going to ask it in light language. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Kuru tule te tarau, ture she te tarau, kuru she te ture la te tō. Pore te taru kuru tule te re ture te re she te kare she te.
My instant reaction is to want to go straight into channel. So I'm going to just allow coyotes to come through, which is the intelligence of the Elohim that comes through me to answer in response.
Beautiful. Thank you.
The individuals that will be receiving this transmission and all future transmissions from the priestesses that have connected, or what we would rather call conduits for creator, are going to receive what they've already agreed and chosen before incarnating on this earth. This is a part of their individual agreements, and as humans have the capacity to choose free will, it will be up to everyone who resonates in an energetic frequency to remember and choose from a place of their internal guidance system. The expression of each individual person's knowing will allow for the contribution of higher frequencies, codes, and activations in the space, remembering that each one of the receivers also has their own magic and medicine to be of contribution to the collective energy. Therefore, the individuals that are receiving are also facilitating, and they are offering their own innate knowing throughout time, space, dimensions, as this will allow for a ripple effect on your collective consciousness to remember deeply while expanding together in a group situation. Sarayataya satya tia anianaya tukuere. I love that. Yeah, it's pretty magical when you hear something like that that it reminds me. It's like, of course, the beautiful individuals are going to be gifting me their medicine and magic, and in that, it's also a beautiful activation to share back and mirror back to people. Thank you, because I received from you, and thank you for deepening my heart and my connection. And yeah, I've got goosebumps of like how that can be gifted to it. Like my mind has just expanded a lot in that thought, because I hadn't perceived it in that perspective until now, of the contribution that this is to the earth, to the collective, from that lens, that there is going to be so many beautiful gifts that are going to be shared, and the amount of remembrance that's going to come through that will create lifetime friendships as well. You know, you may even find your soul group.
Oh, I think that'd be inevitable. I think I have to meet the May. But look, I wanted to tell you, I felt some amazing goosebumps when you were answering, and I was laughing because it's not until the last couple of years that I actually can interpret my light language as I speak it. But it was a question. You answered the question, like, exactly, because the question was something along.
Oh, really? Good, because I had no idea what you
said. Well, the question was.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, it was about the inner process of what people would experience, something along that. And I didn't ask it for, it was them. It was like, I guess my channel is the Council of Cosmic Consciousness as a whole. So they presented that. But that was lovely to play with you like that. That was awesome. I actually feel like I actually got an activation from that. I feel quite I don't know, really inspired and lots of goosebumps. But look, that's all we have time for today, and I think that's a good one to end on. What a beautiful, beautiful taster of joy and light and experience about this event. So I just want to thank you for what you are doing for humanity and for people who are finding their way. And thank you for being a way shower and sister of mine. Sister, I see you as a sister in one level and a cousin in another, because we're so multidimensional. Yeah. I do still see you as a sister, but I know you're still a cousin of mine in the galactic and cosmic sense. So either way, we're family. So thank you so much. And I'll put all the dates and details along with this video when I post it, but we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.